The city of Alaris shined like a diamond in the sky, full of tall towers and bright lights. But far below that shining world, deep under the ground, lived a boy named Rin. He had never seen sunlight in his life. Down there, everything smelled of rust, dirt, and broken machines. The air was heavy. The pipes leaked water, and rats were his only company. Rin was just 14, thin as a stick, with eyes too sharp for his age. Every night he crawled through the tunnels looking for food or something to sell. He called it hunting, but all he ever found were cold metal scraps or leftover crumbs from the people above. He dreamed of eating real food one day, bread, maybe fruit, things he only heard about in stories. The people of Alaris had forgotten about the ones who lived underground. The city above was clean and bright, full of life and laughter. But below, under all that metal and stone, the poor and lost tried to survive. Rin didn't hate the ones above. He just wondered if they ever thought about what was beneath their feet. That night, the tunnels were quiet, too quiet. The air carried a strange hum, a soft sound like electricity whispering through the pipes. Rin stopped walking and listened. He had lived underground long enough to know when something was wrong. Then he heard it, a faint cry. Not human, not machine, something else. He followed the sound through a narrow pipe until he reached an old maintenance room. Broken lights flickered on the ceiling. The cry came again, weak and shaky. Rin's heart beat faster. He picked up a rusty iron rod, just in case. Then in the corner he saw her. It was a girl, but not a human one. Her skin was pale blue, glowing softly in the dark. Her hair shimmered like silver threads, and strange lines ran down her arms, pulsing faintly with light. She was breathing hard, her chest moving fast. One of her legs was covered in blood, silver blood, and she looked terrified. Rin froze. He had heard stories about aliens, the Outworlders. They said these beings were dangerous, heartless, and full of strange powers. People said if you touched one, you'd die in your sleep. Rin took a step back. But then the girl looked at him, eyes full of pain, and whispered, "Help me." Her voice was soft, almost human. Rin's hand trembled. He could have run away, and he wanted to, but something in her voice stopped him. She was afraid, just like he had been so many times before. He threw away the iron rod and crouched beside her. "Don't move," he said quietly. He tore a piece of his own dirty shirt and pressed it against her wound. The silver blood soaked through, warm and glowing. He felt his skin tingle where it touched her, but he didn't pull away. She looked at him with weak eyes and whispered, "They're coming. Please, hide me." Before Rin could ask who, a loud metallic buzz filled the air. A drone floated past the tunnel's opening, its red eye scanning the darkness. A voice echoed from its speaker, sharp and cold. "Attention! Fugitive experiment detected. Report any sightings immediately." Rin's stomach twisted. "Experiment?" he whispered. The alien girl's fingers clutched his arm. "Don't let them find me," she said, tears glowing faintly as they rolled down her cheeks. Without thinking, Rin dragged her across the floor through a broken vent into his small hideout, a space barely big enough for two people. He covered her with a worn blanket, then crouched near the entrance, holding his breath. The drone's light swept across the tunnel. For a moment, the red beam stopped, right above their hiding spot. The air felt heavy. Rin didn't dare breathe. His heart pounded so loud he thought the machine could hear it. The girl's body began to glow brighter under the blanket. The light pulsed faster, uncontrollable. Rin turned toward her in panic, whispering, "Stop! They'll see us!" But she couldn't control it. She looked like she was fighting something inside her, as if her whole body was breaking apart. Outside, the drone's voice changed. Unidentified energy signature detected. Rin knew it was over. He clenched his fists. He didn't know who this strange girl was or why she was hurt, but he couldn't let them take her, not after she looked at him like that, like she was begging to live. He picked up a broken metal pipe, ready to fight if he had to. The drone's red light grew stronger, sweeping toward the vent. The girl's glow was blinding now, flooding the room with blue light, and then silence. The drone stopped moving. The red beam froze. Then, without warning, it shut off and crashed to the ground, sparks flying. Rin stared in shock. The alien girl had stopped glowing. Her chest rose and fell slowly. The air smelled of burnt metal. He turned to her, whispering, "What? What are you?" Her eyes opened, glowing like twin stars, and she whispered one word before falling unconscious. "Kalira." The name echoed in Rin's mind long after she stopped breathing. He didn't know it yet, but saving this strange girl would soon change his whole world and shake the city above to its core. When Rin woke up, the first thing he saw was the faint blue glow flickering from the corner of his shelter. The alien girl, Kylira, was still there, lying motionless beneath his torn blanket. Her silver blood had dried into thin, shining lines across the floor. For a moment he thought she was dead. Then she stirred, her eyelids fluttering open and the room filled with a soft hum like distant thunder, deep and alive. "Where am I?" she whispered weakly. Her voice trembled, carrying both pain and fear. "Underground," Rin said quietly, crouching beside her. "You're safe. For now." Kylira tried to sit up but gasped as pain shot through her leg. Rin quickly stopped her. "Don't move. You'll make it worse." He had wrapped her wound with cloth during the night, but now it glowed faintly under the fabric, like fire trapped under ice. For a long moment, she looked around his shelter, rusted pipes, cracked walls, old posters half burned by time. Her glowing eyes softened. "You live here?" "Alone," Rin nodded. "Everyone does down here. The city forgot about us." She looked confused. "You mean humans live beneath their own city?" Rin almost laughed, but it came out bitter. "We don't get to live in the city. Just under it." Kylira stared at him, her glowing eyes full of sadness. "That's not living," she murmured. Suddenly a sound echoed through the tunnels, a faint metallic whir. Rin's head snapped up. Drones again. He moved quickly, grabbing his small radio and turning it on. A cold official voice filled the air. "Attention citizens of Alaris. The escaped outworld specimen remains at large. She is extremely dangerous. Anyone aiding her will face immediate termination." Rin's stomach dropped. Termination. They meant execution. Kylira's breathing quickened. "They're still searching," she said, panic flashing in her eyes. "Yeah," Rin whispered. "And they're close." He wanted to ask her something, why the drones called her an experiment, but she looked too weak to answer. He instead reached for a dented tin box and pulled out a piece of stale bread. It was all he had. "Here," he said, handing it to her. She looked at it like it was something holy. "You're giving this to me?" "It's just food," Rin shrugged. Kylira took a small bite, then stopped. "You need this more than I do." He smiled sadly. "Maybe. But you're the one bleeding silver." Her lips curved in a faint smile, but then her hand brushed his and something strange happened. A warmth spread through Rin's fingers, crawling up his arm. The hunger in his stomach vanished. The exhaustion faded. He felt alive, stronger than before. He pulled his hand back, eyes wide. "What did you just do?" Kylira looked away. "I shared my energy. It's a gift of my kind. You gave me food, so I gave you life." Rin stared at her in shock. "You can heal people?" She nodded weakly. "Not for long. They took most of my power when they tried to make me something I'm not." He frowned. "Who are they?" Kylira's expression darkened. "The scientists in the White Tower. They said they wanted peace, but they only wanted control. They studied me, cut me, tested what my body could do." Rin felt anger boil in his chest. The White Tower was where all the rich and powerful lived, where the city's rulers made laws for the people above and ignored those below. He never imagined they kept people in cages. But before he could ask more, the sound of footsteps echoed in the tunnel outside. Heavy boots. Multiple soldiers. Rin's heart froze. He grabbed Kylira's arm. "We have to move now." She tried to stand but almost fell. Rin supported her weight as they slipped through a narrow pipe leading deeper into the maze of tunnels. The soldiers' voices grew louder behind them. "Thermal readings detected." "She's close." Rin led her into an old service shaft and hid behind broken machinery. His pulse pounded. Kylira's glowing veins flickered weakly. The light was giving them away. "Can you dim that glow?" he whispered. "I'm trying," she said, trembling. Her light faded just as a red scanner beam swept across the tunnel. The soldiers paused, muttering, then moved on. When silence returned, Rin exhaled hard. That was close. Kylira leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. "You could have turned me in. They'd have rewarded you." Rin looked at her and shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe because no one ever helped me when I needed it." She studied him, her eyes soft and shining. "Then you're not like them." He was about to speak when a distant sound broke the stillness, someone shouting from another tunnel. "Hey, over here!" I heard her voice down this way. Rin froze. Someone had followed them. Maybe one of the scavengers had seen the light and gone to call the guards. He turned to Kalira. "We can't stay here." She nodded weakly, limping forward as Rin guided her deeper into the old pipes. But behind them the shouts grew louder. The tunnel echoed with running footsteps and the hum of drones powering up again. Rin glanced back one last time, his chest tight with fear. Above, the city of Alaris still glowed like a dream. But down here, in the dark, something new had begun to move, and none of them knew yet that this wounded alien girl, the one he'd just saved, carried a secret powerful enough to tear that shining city apart. The tunnels were no longer safe. The echo of boots and the mechanical hum of drones filled the air like a storm closing in. Rin and Kalira moved through the shadows, her weak light flickering across the wet walls. Every step she took left a faint silver mark on the floor, a trail that could easily betray them. "Can you stop bleeding?" Rin whispered, his voice trembling as he pulled her deeper into the maze. "I'm trying," Kalira said, her voice faint. "My body is not healing fast enough." Rin glanced behind them. A red beam swept across the tunnel wall, too close. He pulled her behind a broken column, pressing his hand against her arm to steady her breathing. "Stay quiet." The sound of soldiers came closer. Rin could see their armored suits now, shining with city symbols. Each one carried a scanner that pulsed red with every movement. They were hunting like wolves, slow and patient. He held his breath as a drone floated just inches from their hiding place. The red light stopped, scanning the air. Rin's heart raced so fast he thought it would give them away. Kalira's hand touched his. Her skin was cold, but her touch made him feel strangely calm. The drone suddenly turned away and flew back toward the others. The soldiers followed, their voices fading into the distance. Rin waited another minute before moving. "We can't stay here." "I know a place," he whispered. Kalira nodded weakly, and he helped her walk through a dark tunnel that sloped downward. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Soon the tunnel opened into a huge space filled with rusted tracks and old machines. "This is the old metro," Rin said quietly. "No one comes here anymore." Rows of train cars sat in silence, covered in dust and cobwebs. Broken lights dangled from the ceiling. Rin walked toward a dark corner where a metallic figure sat slumped against a wall. "Tech?" he called softly. The figure's eyes flickered to life, two tiny blue lights glowing in the dark. "Rin, you're not supposed to be here," said a deep robotic voice. Kalira flinched. Rin smiled a little. "It's okay. He's a friend." Tech was an old maintenance robot from before the war, rusted but still functioning. He used to guide lost children through the tunnels. To Rin, he was the closest thing to family. Tech looked at Kalira and paused. "Unidentified life form detected," he said, scanning her faint blue light. "Warning, this entity is being hunted by city defense." "I know," Rin said. "That's why we need your help." Tech's eyes dimmed. "Help her?" "Rin, you risk execution." Rin clenched his fists. "If I don't, she'll die, and I'm not letting that happen." Kalira watched silently as Tech studied her again. "Alien physiology," the robot murmured. "Unstable energy patterns. Injury severe." Then, unexpectedly, Tech's voice softened. "Follow me." He led them deeper into the metro to an old control room half buried in dust. There was a broken console and a flickering screen showing the map of Alaris's underworld. Tech helped Kalira sit down on an old chair. "Thank you," she whispered weakly. Tech nodded. "You are safe here for now. But the city's scanners will find this place soon." Rin turned to Kalira. "They said you were a fugitive experiment." "What did they mean?" Kalira looked down at her hands. "They called it Project Veil." Her voice was quiet, shaking. "They took me from my world, or what was left of it. They said they wanted to learn peace, but they only wanted power. They tried to mix my kind with yours to make soldiers stronger than either species." Rin's eyes widened. "You mean you're part human?" Kalira nodded slowly. "Maybe. I don't even know who I really am anymore." For a long time, no one spoke. The air hummed with the sound of broken machines. Then Kalira whispered, "There's something inside me." Something they were afraid of. That's why they wanted me back. Rin frowned. "Something inside you?" She pressed her hand to her chest, where a faint symbol pulsed beneath her skin. A memory key. It holds the truth of what they did to my people. And to yours. Before Rin could answer, Tech suddenly turned toward the tunnel entrance. His sensors flashed red. Movement detected, he said. Multiple life signs. Closing fast, Rin's stomach dropped. They found us again! Kalira tried to stand, but Tech blocked her with his arm. I will delay them. You must go. No, Rin shouted. They'll destroy you. Tech's glowing eyes flickered softly. I was built to protect this place. Let me do one more good thing before I rust away. He turned to Kalira. Child of the stars, run. The city's eyes see everything. But not forever. Before Rin could protest, Tech opened a hidden passage behind the control panel. The wall slid open with a screech, revealing a narrow escape tunnel. Go, Tech commanded. Rin grabbed Kalira's arm, guiding her inside. As the door began to close, Rin looked back one last time. Through the crack, he saw Tech step into the open tunnel as soldiers rushed in. The robot's voice echoed through the darkness. For the forgotten ones below, and for the stars above. Then the explosion came, bright and thunderous. The tunnel shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling. Rin shielded Kalira as the world roared around them. When the noise finally faded, only silence remained. Tech was gone. Rin's eyes burned with anger and grief. Kalira touched his shoulder gently, her voice trembling. He saved us. Rin nodded slowly, his jaw tight. No, he said softly. He bought us time. But now we run. For real. And as they disappeared into the darkness of the forgotten metro, the whole underground began to wake, shadows stirring, whispers rising. For word was spreading that the hunters were not after just an alien girl. They were hunting the truth. The explosion behind them shook the tunnels like thunder. Dust rained from the ceiling as Rin pulled Kalira through the narrow escape shaft Tech had opened. The air was hot and filled with smoke. Somewhere far behind them, the old robot's voice still echoed in Rin's mind. For the forgotten ones below, and for the stars above. When they finally stopped, both were covered in soot. Kalira's glow was faint, her breath shallow. Rin leaned her against the wall, his chest burning from running. We made it, he whispered, though his voice sounded hollow. Kalira looked at him, her eyes full of quiet pain. Your friend, he sacrificed himself. Rin's throat tightened. He was the only one who ever treated me like I mattered. He clenched his fists, wiping his dirty face. Now he's gone because of me. Kalira shook her head weakly. No, he did it because of what's inside me. What must be revealed, Rin frowned. That chip thing you mentioned? She nodded slowly. It's buried in my armor. It holds proof of what the city did to my kind. It's the reason they're hunting me. Rin wanted to ask more, but then a low rumble echoed through the tunnel, the sound of armored boots approaching. They were still being hunted. He helped Kalira stand, and they moved deeper into the ruins, until they found an old maintenance platform above a flooded train tunnel. Rin led her to a hidden corner and whispered, We'll rest here for a while. Kalira nodded, exhausted. She leaned against the wall, her hand glowing faintly as she healed the cuts on his arm. You keep helping me, she said softly. Why? Rin hesitated. Because someone has to. He smiled faintly. You're not like them. You're not like us either. You're something else. Her eyes softened, but before she could reply, a voice echoed from the shadows. Well, well, the voice said coldly. Look what the rats dragged in. Rin spun around, his heart pounding. A group of tunnel scavengers stepped out from the dark, people like him but desperate, ragged, and hungry. Their leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, grinned as he held up a small radio transmitter. Rin, he said mockingly. You've been busy, Rin froze. He knew that voice and Kerr, another boy from the underworld. Once his friend, now a man who'd sell anything for food or credits. Kerr, don't, Rin said quickly. You don't understand. They'll kill her, Kerr laughed. Kill her? The city's offering 1,000 credits for that alien freak. That's enough to get out of these tunnels forever. Don't tell me you'd pass that up. Kalira struggled to stand, but Rin stepped in front of her. She's not dangerous, he shouted. She's being hunted because she knows something they want to hide. Kerr's grin faded into a sneer. You sound just like the rebels who used to scream about freedom before they vanished. I'm done living in dirt, Rin. I'm done starving. He pressed a button on his transmitter. A distant hum filled the air. The sound of drones activating. Rin's blood ran cold. Kerr, please. Too late, Kerr said flatly. They're already coming. Kalira's hand began to glow faintly as she tried to summon her strength, but she was too weak. Rin grabbed her hand and pulled her toward another passage. Run! They sprinted through the tunnels, the air filling with the screech of approaching drones. Red lights flashed across the walls as scanners swept through the dark. Behind them, Kerr shouted, "You can't hide forever." The chase was chaos. Twisting corridors, falling debris, flashes of red light. Rin's lungs burned. Kalira stumbled, her legs giving out, and they fell beside an old support beam. Her wound had reopened, glowing dangerously bright. "Go," she gasped. "Leave me." Rin shook his head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you again." Her trembling hand reached up and pressed against his chest. "If I die, take the chip inside my armor. You must show the people what they've done. Promise me." "I said I'm not leaving," Rin shouted, his voice breaking. The tunnel suddenly filled with white light. The drones had arrived, hovering silently like ghosts. And behind them came armored soldiers, and at their front, a tall figure in a black coat and silver mask, the commander. Rin had heard of him, a man said to have no mercy, the one who enforced the city's cleansing orders. His cold, metallic voice echoed through the tunnel. "Target located. Capture alive. Eliminate the human." Rin stepped in front of Kalira, gripping a metal rod like a weapon. His knees shook, but he didn't move aside. "You'll have to go through me." The commander tilted his head slightly. Brave words for a boy who lives in filth. Kalira struggled to her feet, her glow brightening again. "He's more human than any of you," she said through gritted teeth. The commander raised his hand and a blast of energy hit the wall beside them, throwing Rin backward. He crashed into the ground, pain shooting through his body. The soldiers surrounded Kalira, binding her arms with glowing cuffs. "Take her," the commander ordered. Rin crawled toward her, his vision blurry. "Kalira!" She looked at him one last time, tears glowing on her cheeks. "Rin, don't let them take the truth." Then one of the soldiers struck him across the head and everything went dark. The last thing he heard was the commander's cold voice fading into the darkness. "The experiment has chosen her human." How touching. Pity he won't live to see the end. When Rin opened his eyes, everything was bright. Too bright. His head throbbed, his vision blurred. He lay on a cold metal floor surrounded by humming machines. The air smelled of disinfectant and static. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he was. Then the memory hit him. The tunnel, the soldiers, the explosion, Kalira being taken. He sat up too fast, pain stabbing through his skull. His wrists were cuffed, his legs heavy with iron restraints. A voice spoke from the corner. "You're lucky to be alive, boy." Rin turned his head. The commander stood behind a glass wall, his silver mask shining under harsh white lights. Behind him, strange figures in lab coats moved like shadows, working around glowing screens. "Where is she?" Rin shouted, his voice hoarse. "Where's Kalira?" The commander didn't answer at first. He stepped closer, his boots echoing on the metal floor. "She's in containment, and you are an inconvenience." Rin's jaw tightened. "You're hurting her!" The commander tilted his head slightly. "She's not alive the way you think. She was created here in this facility. She belongs to us." Rin froze. "That's a lie." The commander pressed a button. The wall behind him turned transparent, revealing another room, a chamber glowing with blue light. Inside, Kalira floated in a tank filled with shimmering liquid. Wires and tubes connected to her arms, her back, even her chest. Her eyes were closed, her silver blood swirling in the fluid like smoke. "She was made in this lab," the commander said coldly. "A project meant to combine alien DNA with human resilience. The perfect weapon. But she escaped before she was finished." Rin stared at her, his heart twisting. "You're monsters. Monsters." The commander chuckled softly. "No, we're creators. Humanity needed something stronger to survive the wars that are coming. You boys should be proud she's part of your kind." Rin slammed his fists against the floor. "You don't get it." "She's not your thing to own. She's a person." The commander leaned closer to the glass. "A person doesn't glow when she bleeds. A person doesn't destroy drones with her heartbeat." Rin's mind spun. He refused to believe it. Kalira had memories and dreams, feelings, pain. None of that could be made in a lab. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. The hum of the machines changed tone, like something deep in the system had awakened. The commander frowned and turned toward his officers. "What's happening?" Unknown energy surge from the containment unit, sir, one of the scientists shouted. Rin's eyes shot back to the tank. Kalira's eyes were open now, glowing fiercely, brighter than he had ever seen. The liquid around her boiled as power surged through her veins. The commander barked, "Increase sedation, now!" But before they could act, the glass of the tank cracked once, twice, and then shattered with a deafening sound. The room flooded with blue light as Kalira stepped out, the tubes falling from her like dead vines. She looked different, stronger. Her skin shimmered with silver lines pulsing beneath the surface, her hair floating like it was alive. She looked both human and not, a being caught between two worlds. Her gaze found Rin instantly. "They told you lies," she said, her voice trembling with power. "I wasn't born here. I was copied." Rin's heart skipped. "Copied?" She nodded slowly, her tears glowing. The real Kalira was an alien queen, a guardian of worlds. They took her memories, her essence, and placed it inside this body. "I'm her echo." Her shadow, the commander raised his gun. "Contain her!" he ordered. Kalira turned to him, her voice filled with quiet fury. "You used my mind to build weapons. You used her heart to create fear." Energy burst from her hands, throwing the soldiers backward. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Rin shielded his face as alarms blared. Kalira reached toward him, her glowing hand touching the lock on his cuffs. The metal melted away like wax. "We have to leave," she said. Rin stood dizzy but determined. "How?" "The whole building's crawling with guards." Kalira pointed to the shattered glass behind her. "There's another way, but it's not safe." Before they could move, a sharp voice echoed through the speakers. "Activate the failsafe." The floor began to tremble. Red lights flashed across the walls. From hidden doors, heavy machines rose, human-shaped robots with glowing cores. Their eyes burned red as they locked onto Kalira. "Go," she shouted, pushing Rin toward an exit. "I'll hold them off." "No," Rin grabbed her arm. "You can't fight them all." "I don't need to," she said softly. "Just enough to get you out." She turned back toward the machines, her energy flaring brighter. The walls cracked, the air vibrating with power. As Rin ran through the smoke and chaos, he looked back one last time. Kalira stood in the center of the storm, her hair whipping like silver fire, her body glowing with the strength of something far greater than human. Behind her, the commander raised his weapon again and fired. The sound echoed through the lab like a scream. Rin didn't stop running. He burst into the cold night air above the city, the first time he had ever seen the stars. But all he could think of was her voice still echoing in his head. "If I die, the city dies with me." Rin looked back at the glowing tower behind him. Blue light flashed across the skyline, spreading like lightning through the dark. Something terrible and powerful had just awakened. The city of Alaris had never seen darkness like this. The bright towers that once glowed proudly were now flickering, their lights dying one by one. Sirens wailed across the skyline. Alarms screamed from every direction. People poured into the streets, confused and afraid, staring at the flashes of blue light rising from the center tower, the lab where Kalira had been kept. Down below, in the hidden underworld, the tunnels shook as power lines exploded. Rin stumbled through the smoke, his lungs burning. He didn't know how far he'd run, only that Kalira was still inside that nightmare of a building. Every explosion, every spark that lit the night sky made his heart twist harder. He found shelter inside an old subway station. A few scavengers, kids like him, huddled in fear around small fires. They looked at him as he entered, wide-eyed. "Rin," one of them whispered. "What's happening up there?" He swallowed hard. The truth's breaking free. They didn't understand, but it didn't matter. He had to move. Kalira's words echoed in his head. "If I die, the city dies with me." He didn't know if she was alive, but he refused to believe she was gone. He climbed up through broken service ladders, past dripping pipes, and finally reached the lower streets. The air smelled of smoke and burning metal. Above him, military drones swarmed like black insects, firing energy beams into the sky. But something was fighting back. From the center of the chaos, waves of blue light pulsed outward, knocking the drones from the air. Kalira. He knew that light anywhere. Rin pushed forward, dodging wreckage, until he found himself near the city's central square, a place he had only ever seen from far below. Now it was chaos, Civilians ran in panic while soldiers fired at shadows that glowed with silver fire. Then suddenly, all the holographic billboards around the square flickered and changed. The screen showed Kalira's face, weak, pale, but alive. Her voice echoed across every corner of Alaris. People of Alaris, you have been lied to. The crowds froze. Even the soldiers stopped firing. They told you I was a weapon. They told you aliens were your enemy, but I was made in your city, by your leaders. I was born from pain, not from the stars. They used my kind to build their power, and they will use you next. Rin watched in awe as her image spread to every screen, even the massive one atop the government tower. People whispered around him, anger and disbelief rising in their voices. You deserve the truth, Kalira continued. You deserve freedom. The screens flickered again, showing images of secret experiments, cages, humans screaming behind glass, and scientists standing coldly beside machines filled with silver blood. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The lie was breaking. Rin realized something. The chip she'd talked about, she had used it to unlock the truth. The soldiers shouted orders to shut down the broadcast, but it was too late. Every device in the city was now a mirror showing their crimes. Then came the explosion. The White Tower split open in a storm of blue light. Kalira appeared at the top, surrounded by smoke and fire, her hair flowing like silver ribbons. Her eyes glowed fiercely, brighter than the sun. Rin shouted her name. She looked down, and for a brief second their eyes met. Then, without warning, energy beams fired from nearby towers. Kalira raised her hands, forming a shimmering barrier of light, but the strain was too much. She screamed as the force slammed into her. Kalira! Rin ran toward the tower, his heart pounding. He didn't care about soldiers or explosions. He just had to reach her. A group of guards blocked his way, but before they could attack, someone threw a rock at them. Then another. Rin turned. Dozens of tunnel dwellers had emerged from the shadows. The forgotten people from below. They were armed with metal rods, scrap weapons, and fire in their eyes. One of them shouted, "For the underground." Another yelled, "For the truth!" And just like that, chaos turned into rebellion. The crowd surged forward, overwhelming the soldiers. Sparks flew, drones crashed, and the streets of Alaris erupted into battle. The poor, the hungry, the forgotten, all rising together. Rin led them toward the tower, his voice breaking from shouting. She's the reason we're alive. Don't let them take her again. They fought their way through the streets, past barricades and burning vehicles. For the first time in his life, Rin wasn't running from the city. He was running toward it. Inside the tower, the walls trembled. Kalira fell to her knees, blood and silver and bright, dripping onto the floor. Her power flickered like a dying star. Rin reached her as the ceiling began to collapse. You did it, he whispered, holding her hand. They know the truth now. She smiled weakly. It's not over. The city's core, it's breaking. My energy. It's connected to it. If I lose control, everything will fall. Rin shook his head. Then we'll stop it together. She looked at him, tears glowing on her cheeks. You can't stop what I am. The floor cracked beneath them, light spilling through like fire. The entire tower vibrated with the sound of something ancient and alive. Outside, people watched as blue energy climbed the building, swirling around the tower like a storm. Some prayed. Some screamed. Inside, Rin held Kalira close as her body began to glow brighter and brighter. Kalira, listen, he whispered. You're not their creation. You're you. You're real. Her trembling hand touched his chest. Rin, you made me real. Then the light consumed everything, and a burst so bright it painted the sky. The tower collapsed, vanishing into a cloud of fire and light. And for the first time, the people of Alaris, rich and poor, above and below, and stood together staring at the ruins. The rebellion had begun, but Rin wasn't done. He refused to believe that was the end. Somewhere inside that explosion, he swore he saw her light, still flickering. Smoke covered the sky of Alaris. The once shining city now looked like the end of the world. Towers broken, streets cracked, the air thick with dust and fire. People wandered through the ruins in silence. The White Tower, the heart of the city's power, was gone. Nothing left but twisted metal and ash. Rin sat among the rubble, his hands bleeding, his clothes torn. He had survived the explosion, but barely. His ears still rang, his mind replaying the last moments. Kalira's light, her voice, her touch. He whispered her name again and again as if saying it might bring her back. "Kalira, please?" There was no answer, only the soft sound of the wind blowing through broken glass. Around him, people gathered. The poor from the tunnels, the workers from the lower sectors, even some from the shining districts above. They had seen everything. The truth about the experiments, the government's lies, the alien girl who had died for them. An old man stepped forward, his face covered in soot. "Is it true?" he asked. "Was she real?" Rin nodded weakly. "She was more real than any of us." For a moment no one spoke. Then a woman whispered, "She freed us." Another voice joined, "She saved us." And then another. "She was the light we needed." The words spread through the crowd like fire. People raised their heads, eyes shining with new hope. Kalira's name became a whisper on every tongue, not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as a savior. But Rin couldn't feel hope. His heart was empty. He had lost the only being who ever saw him as more than a shadow. As the sun began to rise, weak and red through the smoke, he climbed through the wreckage of the tower. The metal was still hot under his hands. He searched for any sign of her, anything. A piece of armor, a mark, even a trace of her silver blood. Hours passed. Then under a pile of broken steel he found it. A small glowing shard. It pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Rin picked it up with trembling hands. "Kalira," he whispered. The shard grew warmer. For a second he thought he heard her voice, soft and distant. "Rin, you kept your promise." His heart skipped. The glow brightened, and before he knew it, the shard dissolved into tiny threads of light, wrapping around his hand. He gasped as warmth spread through his chest, not painful but alive. He looked around. The light from the shard flowed into the cracks of the earth, sinking deep below. The ground trembled slightly, and then faintly he heard it, a hum from below the ruins. A heartbeat, steady and strong. Rin climbed down through the shattered tunnels, following the sound. The deeper he went, the brighter the light became. It led him to a cavern, one he had never seen before. In the center of it, water shimmered with silver and blue. The light came from beneath the surface. He stepped closer, his reflection glowing in the water. And then he saw her, Kalira. Her body floated just below the surface, surrounded by swirling strands of energy. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful as if she were only sleeping. Rin fell to his knees, his heart pounding. "You're alive," he whispered, voice shaking. "You're really alive." He reached out, but before he could touch her, the water rippled and her eyes slowly opened. They glowed, softer than before, warm and kind. "Rin," she said softly, her voice echoing like music through the cave. "I told you. I'd find you." Tears filled his eyes. "I thought I lost you." Kalira smiled faintly. "You did, for a while. When the tower fell, I released my energy to save the people. I became part of the city. Now, I'm something else." Rin didn't understand, but he didn't care. He just wanted her to stay. "Then stay with me. Don't leave again." She reached out, her glowing fingers brushing his cheek. "I can't stay as I was. My body is gone. But my spirit is here, and in the earth, in the air, in every light you see. The city breathes again because of me, because of you." Rin shook his head, tears spilling down his face. "That's not fair. You shouldn't have to disappear to save them." Kalira's smile turned sad. "Sometimes to save a world, you have to become part of it." The light around her began to rise, swirling higher, brighter. "Don't cry, Rin. You showed them humanity still has a heart. You gave me a reason to believe in it." The cavern shook as the light spread through the tunnels, racing outward. Above, the ruins of Alaris began to glow faintly blue. The fires went out, replaced by soft beams of light running through the broken streets like rivers. People emerged from the shadows, staring at the glowing paths that led through the city. The air felt clean again. The machines had stopped. The sky, for the first time in decades, showed the stars. Rin looked up through the hole in the ceiling, watching as the light climbed toward the heavens. "Goodbye, Kalira," he whispered. Her voice echoed one last time, faint but full of warmth. "Not goodbye. Just look for the light beneath the ruins." And then she was gone. The water stilled and the glow faded, but not completely. Rin stood there for a long time, hand pressed to his chest where the shard's warmth still lingered. Then he turned and climbed back toward the surface. When he reached the city streets, people were already rebuilding, not with greed or fear, but with hope. The rebellion had become a rebirth. As the first true dawn rose over Ilaris, Rin looked to the sky. High above, a single streak of blue light crossed the clouds, silent, graceful, and familiar. He smiled. She's watching. And in that moment, the boy who once lived underground felt sunlight on his face for the very first time, and knew that Kalira's light would never fade again.